The Lord be with you. I'm Deacon Keith Fournier, and our first reading is from the book of Exodus. Then God spoke all these words. He said, I am Yahweh your God, who brought you out of Egypt, where you lived as slaves. You shall have no other gods to rival me. You shall not make yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything in heaven above, or on earth beneath, or in the waters under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them. For I, Yahweh your God, am a jealous God, and I punish a parent's fault in the children, the grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren among those who hate me. But I act with faithful love toward thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of Yahweh your God, for Yahweh will not leave unpunished anyone who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. For 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath for Yahweh your God. You shall do no work that day, neither you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your servants, men or women, nor your animals, nor the alien living with you. For in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens, earth, and sea, and all that these contain. But on the seventh day he rested. That is why Yahweh has blessed the Sabbath day and made it sacred. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land that Yahweh your God is giving you. You shall not kill. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false evidence against your neighbor. You shall not set your heart on your neighbor's house. You shall not set your heart on your neighbor's spouse or servant, man or woman or ox or donkey, or any of your neighbor's possessions. And our response is taken from Psalm 19. The precepts of Yahweh are honest, joy for the heart. The commandment of Yahweh is pure, light for the eyes. The fear of Yahweh is pure, lasting forever. The judgments of Yahweh are true, upright, every one, more desirable than gold, even the finest gold. His words are sweeter than honey that drips from the comb. Thus your servant is formed by them. Observing them brings great reward. And our second reading is taken from the first letter of the Apostle Paul to the Corinthians. While the Jews demand miracles and the Greeks look for wisdom, we are preaching a crucified Christ. To the Jews, an obstacle they cannot get over. To the Gentiles, foolishness. But to those who have been called, whether they are Jews or Greeks, a Christ who is both the power of God and the wisdom of God. God's folly is wiser than human wisdom, and God's weakness is stronger than human strength. And a reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. John. When the time of the Jewish Passover was near, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. And in the temple he found people selling cattle and sheep and doves, and the money changers sitting there. Making a whip out of cord, he drove them all out of the temple, sheep and cattle as well, scattered the money coins, knocked their tables over, and said to the dove sellers, "Take all this out of here, and stop using my Father's house as a market." Then his disciples remembered the words of Scripture, "I am eaten up with zeal for your house." The Jews intervened and said, "What sign can you show us that you should act like this?" And Jesus answered, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." The Jews replied, "It's taken 46 years to build this temple. Are you going to raise it up again in 3 days?" But he was speaking of the temple that was his body. And when Jesus rose from the dead, his disciples remembered that he had said this, and they believed the Scripture and what he had said. During his stay in Jerusalem for the feast of the Passover, many believed in his name when they saw the signs that he did. But Jesus knew all people and did not trust himself to them. He never needed evidence about anyone. He could tell what someone had within. The Gospel of the Lord.